Voters in our region are looking to cast their vote in the upcoming primary election. Northwest Public Broadcasting and the League of Women Voters of Benton, Franklin counties want you to know the candidates. Recorded at the Washington State University Tri-Cities campus, this is Vote 2023.
Good evening and welcome to the 2023 Primary Election Candidate Forums. My name is Ravine Jimenez and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin counties. The League is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes any candidate. In presenting these forums, it is our goal to provide opportunities for voters to become better informed about the people who are running for public office. These primary election forums have been pre-recorded in person by Northwest Public Broadcasting at the WSU Tri-Cities studio. They will also now be available at nwpb.org/2023 on the League's website and or Facebook page, through the Columbia Basin Badger Club, the City of Richland, and YouTube. Please go to lwv/bf.org to see the complete information for accessing any and all of these sites. The forums will be available through August 1st, Election Day. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Matt Lovelace from Murrow College of Communication at WSU Pullman. Please welcome Matt.
And thank you to the League of Women Voters for that introduction. I am Matt Lovelace, a scholarly assistant professor of journalism at Washington State University. And tonight I'll be moderating 3 forums, each for a school board position in the city of Richland. Now, this is part of our Vote 2023 coverage as we continue our partnership with the League of Women Voters to try to make more informed voters, and particularly today in a school board race that we think is really important for our voters to learn more about. Now, as always, let's set a few ground rules here. This is not a typical debate format. We do not have rebuttals or anything like that. However, we have set aside some time for opening and closing statements. A number of questions in between provided by the League of Women Voters. We have Columbia Basin College. We've also had Richland High School contribute some questions to this forum as well. Now, for the sake of fairness, everything we have is set at a time limit, 1 minute apiece for our responses, for opening, closing statements, and for the series of questions. I do ask for no interruptions. We're trying to stay on time and on topic, and of course, keep everything fair for all of our candidates involved. And with that, let's meet our candidates for this race. Richland School Board Director 3 position. Our candidates here are Chelsea Beck, Tony Gonzalez, and Nino Capitula. Thank you 3 for joining us here today. We really appreciate your time. We think having our voters learn about the school board candidates is extremely important here. So let's start with some opening statements. I mentioned I set the timer at 1 minute. Ms. Beck, I'll give you that minute to you.
Thank you, Matt. My name is Chelsea Beck, and I'm running for school board because I'm passionate about public education, and I have children in the school district. My mom is an educator. I watched her work as a paraeducator and then become a teacher, and finally she's a special ed director. So I've seen her devote her life to public education, and I think it's incredibly important because it provides opportunities no matter what your background. I discovered my passion for chemistry my sophomore year of high school. I had a wonderful teacher, Miss Hovig, and because Washington State Public Education provided me those opportunities, I was able to pursue my goals and attend college at WSU to get my PhD. Go Cougs! So I want that same thing for my kids and all the kids in the district. I don't think I have all the answers, but I do have ideas, and I have an open mind, and I'm looking forward to learning how best I can support our students. Thank you.
Ms. Beck, thank you very much. And since I'm obligated as a Coug, go Cougs as well. Tony Gonzalez, your opening statements.
Yeah. My name is Tony Gonzalez. I'm new to the Tri-Cities. I am not a bomber. I am not a Falcon. But what I am is again, I use the word passionate. I am passionate for education. I think education opens the doors for many avenues, not only for higher education. I'm not a college graduate, but I am skilled in the field of electrician. I am a union electrician, and I would promote not only higher education, but also for the kids to find a skill that they can use and they can love to do and use that for their future. I've been on the school board before. I was on it for 10 years in the Grandview School District. I know a lot of the functions. I know of the rules, and I think that's important. I think people in the community need transparency And I think that's one of the things that I would like to not only promote, but see within our school board, just transparency and just good communication, not only with the parents, but with all in the community, because they are taxpayers.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much. Ms. Capitula, your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Nino Capitula, and I live in West Richland. My background, I actually immigrated from the Republic of Moldova, so I come from a family of immigrants. And school played a very pivotal, public school education, pivotal role in my current situation. I believe in education, especially high school education. Just as Tony said, not everyone can go past that and attend college, but high school is important, and it's important that we give our children quality education. It's important that we make sure that our children have confidence when they're done with high school, that they have confidence to go into the world and make the difference. Every single one of them can make the difference, and I am running because I was told that I can make the difference. And this is the confidence that our kids are missing today. And I'm running so that way we can make sure that they have the confidence, that our parents have confidence when they send their kids to school, that they are taught academics, that they are taught excellence. I am willing and ready to do the job. I don't know everything, but I am a really quick learner. Everything that I have accomplished in my life is because I put time and effort in learning. So I'm willing to do that, and so help me God.
All right, Ms. Capitula, thank you very much. And a reminder for our line of questioning here, we'll get started with that in a second. We have a timer here for you. Just keep an eye on it, and we'll try to stay on time and on topic here. Now, our first question does come from one of the schools here in the district, Richland High School, so we appreciate that. From a class there, the school board positions are nonpartisan. So how will you demonstrate nonpartisanship, free from political influence in your candidacy or in your work as a school board director? Ms. Beck, we'll start with you, and then we'll rotate through these questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. I think that's an excellent question. So I did not seek any endorsements from any political party. I think that's completely inappropriate in a nonpartisan election like this. I think that all parents have the same motivations and wants for their kids, no matter what their political affiliation is. So I want to represent all families, and I think we all want what's best for our children. We want them to be successful, we want them to be happy, and I want to promote policies that help enable that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gonzalez, same question to you, just about removing personal political beliefs from the position.
Yeah, no, great question, Richland High School. I appreciate that. Yeah, again, something what Chelsea said, I did not seek any endorsement as well. I'm kind of running this out of my own basement, my own backyard, my own home. Yeah, I'm not going to be tied to any particular organization or people. So we have to make decisions based on the kids. It's always about the kids, and we want high quality standards for the kids. Obviously, I have personal faith, so I am guided by my personal faith, but also on the same hand, we are also required to follow the state and make those tough decisions that just going to have to be tough, and you're not going to make everybody happy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Ms. Capitula, same question to you.
Okay, great question. I did seek endorsement, and endorsement, the reason that I believe endorsement is not really a bipartisan issue is because it just helps voters understand who I am and the principles that I live by, whether they're political or personal, because I am a believer as well, I'm a Christian. We have such a short period of time to get to know the candidates. And I myself, in the past, really appreciated more information about, hey, where do they look? How do they understand politics? How do they understand personal principles? It is, I didn't want to deceive anybody. So, and it's because people, we believe in democracy, and people will make their vote, and they will make a choice. And I want to make sure that they're going to make the best choice for them based on everything that they need to know. So therefore, that was my motivation to seek endorsement. Also, BCRP, they're my family. I am a PCO, and they're my family. So why wouldn't I seek support from my family?
All right, thank you very much. Now, question number 2, this comes from the League of Women Voters, and we're setting up a hypothetical that feels like it would almost certainly come to pass. If a parent comes to you with an issue says, I need you to take care of this. I wonder what things you would take into consideration in order to make that process move along fairly. Mr. Gonzalez, we'll start with you.
Well, definitely you want to hear them out. You want to hear the whole situation. You want to hear everything they have to say. And then what you would end up doing is having them go back to the school district, go back to the chain of command, and if they're not heard, return, and then hopefully I will be able to assist them in finding the right people to get the answers that they need. Yeah, I am not, I'm just one of 5. I can assist. That's about as far as I can do, and I can maybe open up doors for those parents that have questions and have concerns. But as far as being the final answer, one board member is not the final answer.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you. Ms. Capitula, same question to you. What would be the process if a parent asked you to investigate an issue at their kid's school?
So I believe that Richland School District right now has policies in place, so they have protocol and the order of things that needs to be done. And I would take time to listen and then show them, what is the next step, what would be the next, thing that they shall do. And if things are not going to get resolved, I will most certainly make sure that I represent those concerns. I cannot make decisions because, again, I'm one of 5, but the presentation needs to be there. People, our voters, parents, they need to feel like they've got someone that actually is willing to speak up for the concerns that they have. And I'm willing to be that voice. I am just the voice. I'm the messenger. So that is the position that I take.
All right, Ms. Capitula, thank you very much. Ms. Beck, same question to you.
Yes, thank you. So Tony and Nino have both raised very good points. I would say that for me, it's really frustrating as a parent to feel like you're not being heard. So I completely understand parents' frustration with that, but I do think there is a chain of command. As Tony mentioned, they should really go to the child's school, the teacher, the principals, to try to handle that initially. If they feel like they aren't being heard, then definitely they can bring that to the school board. But like has already been mentioned, there's not a whole lot that can be done there except addressing concerns with the curriculum. If that curriculum is up for a new curriculum, it can be assessed. If it's not meeting the needs of the community, then it's important to hear that from our community. But there's also only so much that one of 5 board members can do.
Sure. Any number of topics could come up as well. It is a hypothetical, but I appreciate you participating. The last question here before we get to some closing statements. I mentioned this would be fast. If you've followed the news in your district, any district, teacher shortages. In fact, anecdotally, my long-retired father has been substituting, and so we see the need for teachers in the district. And so in light of that, what are some strategies you would use to increase the amount of teachers you have? Ms. Capitula, we'll start with you.
So I believe that we need to be willing to offer them something that other districts cannot offer, right? It's all about being competitive in the market, right? I cannot say what those things are at the moment because I'm not sure what the current offers stand and what the contracts look like. That's one thing. Second thing, if we could go and recruit people ahead of time. So make sure that we have programs and relationships with universities and organizations where we could make sure that we get the best, because our kids do deserve the best. And those are the 2 things that I would like to implement initially if I'm voted in.
All right, Ms. Capitula, thank you very much. Ms. Beck, I'll ask you that same question with the teacher shortages. What does the school district need to do to encourage people to apply?
Well, as my mom was a teacher for many years before becoming an administrator, I've seen that it's important to her that the district has a strong community and that as a teacher you feel connection with those families of the kids that you're teaching. So I think a lot of community outreach, family engagement is really important both for the students but also for the teachers to feel like they're connecting with their students and their families. So I think more family outreach would be really important and help kind of motivate teachers that this is a district that they want to come and work for.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Gonzalez, same question.
Well, I'm a huge fan of promotion. I think we need to promote our students. We have great students. I think we need to promote our teachers. We have great teachers. I think we need to promote our administrators. We got great administrators. We just got to be on the front end of promotion, that this is a great school district. We have great teachers, and we want to continue that tradition. So come on, come to the Richland School District, get on a staff, be mentored, be involved. We need you. There is a need. We need good teachers. We need to promote that. We need to promote that we are the place for them to come.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much. Like I said, we went really fast here, and finally we do have some time for some closing statements. I feel like we could cover so much more, and I promise you the list of potential questions is much longer, but we do have time for closing statements, and I would encourage you to wrap up with what your priorities might be as a school board member. But Ms. Beck, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you so much. So I have a lot of priorities. I'll try to narrow it down to one for the sake of time. My largest priority would be addressing the achievement gap. So some kids are being left behind, and I think that starts early. Kindergarten readiness, you already see that gap between low-income, non-low-income students. So I think expanding the early learning center and providing transitional kindergarten to more families in the district, but also continuing as kids grow to have opportunities for them to be engaged with extracurricular activities. I mean, my kids aren't excited to go to school and learn math. They're excited to do drama, and they're excited to do sports. These are the things that keep kids engaged and keep them excited. And then in high school, they need to have opportunities for what they're going to do after high school. As Tony mentioned, this isn't just college. That's not for everyone. Definitely wasn't for my husband. So something like Tri-Tech is great for kids that are more hands-on learners, want to learn a trade. And I think we keep kids engaged by having opportunities that appeal to a wide variety of students. So that's why I'm running. You can definitely find out more about that on my Facebook page. And I'm open to any questions anytime from the community. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Beck, thank you very much. Mr. Gonzalez, your closing statements.
Yeah, you know, a couple things that the current board is doing that I really am supportive of. One is this capital projects levy that they're doing to increase safety and security at the schools. I think that's vital. We don't want any tragedy to happen here in our school district, and that's got to be number one. Proper security, because we want the kids to feel safe, to be engaged. And the second thing is, you know, we went through this COVID time, and I think I heard a guy say that it's enough, we've spent enough time being COVID victims, let's be COVID victors. So let's go ahead and, you know, set the standards high. Let's help those students achieve those standards. Yeah, I want to be a part of that team that does that. And not only that, we have this a new school possibility going to be built. You know, there's going to be some tough decisions to be made as well there as well. So as far as for me, safe, I would love exceptional schools, and I want to be a part of that team to achieve that.
All right, Mr. Gonzalez, thank you very much. Ms. Capitula, your closing statement.
So today, the biggest conversation that is happening in homes is, what about the future? What does the future hold? Where are we at? Well, I'm here to tell my voters that the future begins with our children. So we need to make sure that they get the best education, that they get skills and training. So those that cannot go on to college, they have skills that they can attain when they're done with high school so they can go into the workforce. We need to close the gap between parents and teachers. The trust needs to be rebuilt. So I would love to implement policies where we give more access to parents. We give them more opportunity to volunteer, to know what is happening, you know, in school districts. Close that gap, rebuild the trust. We need to become victors. We need to close the division that's been, you know, happening in our district. It's time that we come together. United we stand. And thank you very much, and I would really appreciate you guys' support. So let's champion our children to the great future.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your thoughtful responses. Chelsea Beck, Tony Gonzalez, Nino Capitula, candidates for the Director 3 position on the Richland School Board. Thank you for being here today. And now we move on to position 4, an incumbent and a couple of challengers in our next forums. That incumbent, Board President Carrie Williams, along with challengers Katrina Waters and Aaron Riggs. Excited to hear all of your thoughts here on a number of topics. And as we've let everybody know, opening statements are set at 1 minute apiece, and then we'll get a quick few questions in. Mr. Riggs, you're first alphabetically by last name, so we'll start with you here. What's your opening statement, sir?
Well, my name is Aaron Riggs, running for Richland School Board. I'm a father of 4. Excited to help shape the future of our community and our nation. I think there's a lot of challenges going on at this point in time. We have a lot of catch up to do thanks to some challenges we had with COVID-19. I think there's also plenty of improvement to be made in school safety. I think some of our kids are scared to go to school, and I think it's affecting their education as well. So that'll be one of my main priorities, is school safety as well as parents' rights, ensuring that the school district is transparent in the directions that they're going or the curriculum they're using to teach our children, and then also financial responsibility. I think there's plenty of room for us to cut the fat in the school district, and I'd like to help return some of those dollars back to the taxpayers.
Aaron Riggs, appreciate you being here today. Katrina Waters, your opening statement.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Katrina Waters. My husband and I moved to the Tri-Cities 19 years ago, and we've raised our 3 kids in the Richland School District. I have a lot of experience advocating for my kids with counselors, teachers, and school administrators, attended a lot of school board meetings over the years, and I have more than a decade of experience volunteering with both sports and scouting programs, youth programs in the area, so I think that sets me up pretty well to be a good community member on the school board. Like Aaron said, I think we have some priorities and things that we need to do for the district. One of my #1 priorities is special education and meeting the needs of all of our students in the district. Safety is also a priority for me. I want kids to feel safe in school, but I want us to also address mental health needs of our staff and our students. And communication is a really big priority for me. I want to make sure that we can find common ground through diverse perspectives and collaborate to do the best that we can for our board and for our students in our community.
All right, Ms. Waters, thank you very much for being here. Carrie Williams on the board right now. What's your opening statement?
Yes, well, thank you so much, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this together so that we can come, and thank you for those who are tuning in as well. And so I'm running for re-election really because, simply put, I just love the world of education. I have been involved in this world for such a long time. I have a master's degree in education. Before becoming a stay-at-home mom, I was an elementary school teacher. And even before serving on the board for the past 3.5 years, I volunteered at the classroom level and the school level and also at the district level, helping make curriculum decisions as well as working on capital project decisions at the district level. And I ultimately, my kids, we've got 5 kids, and all 5 of which will be in the district at elementary, middle, and high school beginning next year. Our baby's going to be in kindergarten, and our eldest will be in high school. And being a parent in the district, you get to see that perspective, very different perspective. You get to see the weaknesses and the strengths coming home every single day. And I really just feel like we need to have that perspective. We need to make sure we have parents involved, and I'm eager to continue all the great work that I've been working on so far.
All right, Carrie Williams, thank you very much for being here. Now we'll get into a few questions here. As we mentioned, League of Women Voters provided some of them, as did Richland High School. And between the League and a couple of these other sources, that list was way too long to be able to address them all. But I'll say a number of the questions on that list from the schools and from the League were based on how you might handle a situation in which you personally disagree with something. And I'm just going to pick one here, and this is a hot button issue. What's your position on the banning or regulation of books that are in schools? Mr. Riggs, you first.
I don't like the term ban because those books are still available for purchase. I'm sure you could go to the public library and search out that type of content. That content, in my opinion, for most of the books that we're talking about is adult content and therefore shouldn't be in the schools. One of the things I want to focus on is transparency in what curriculum and books are available to kids. I'd like to see the school district create a database of all literature that's in all the libraries so parents can freely search what's available to the children, and so that they can bring up any concerns with any of those books that might be questionable for or not age appropriate.
All right, Mr. Riggs, thank you very much. Ms. Waters, same question to you. Yeah. The book debate, as we can summarize it.
Yes. So I don't believe that banning books or censoring books in the schools is a really good way to go, because it can be a dangerous road. If any one person has an opinion about a controversial topic, they could ban it for everybody else if we went down that road. I think our instructional materials committees go to great lengths to find alternative resources in different curricula so that the students can choose and the parents can have a choice about the materials that their kids will have access to. And then they can opt out of those choices, or they can talk to the teacher about other alternatives. I do think that we have the potential, if we allow censoring of books in the libraries in school, to potentially censor lots of books, history books, works of literature, and that sort of thing that wasn't necessarily the intent going in.
All right, Ms. Waters, thank you very much. Ms. Williams, you're on the board. I'm sure a conversation you've had before.
Absolutely. And so for me, this to me is not about banning books. It's about having developmentally appropriate books in the appropriate level of schools. And one thing that I really like to point out to people is, you know, when our kids go to library once a week, when it's on our elementary kids and as often as they would like in middle and high school, the parents aren't there to regulate what's going on. It's really those kids have places they can put their books. They can keep them in their lockers, their cubbies, and it's really the administrators. It's our job to make sure that these kids are going into these libraries and making sure that the content's appropriate for their age. Now, with a public library system, that is the responsibility of the parent. And there's not a place at the public library where children can put their books and leave them there. And it's ultimately, in order to get a library card, you have to have an adult, a parent, have that permission. And so for me, it's about making sure that parents trust us when they're sending their kids to school and making sure that they can't get their hands on content that is contrary to what their families believe. And so there's so much rich content out there that we can be filling our shelves with. And when it comes to these very few books that are just super controversial, I think we err on the side of parents and make sure that our kids are safe.
All right, Ms. Williams, thank you very much. All right, question number 2 from the League of Women Voters. And Ms. Waters, we're going to start with you here, and you actually mentioned some of it in your opening statement. Any experiences you've had in this district teaching, substituting, volunteering, coaching sports, anything like that? And how do you think these experiences would shape you as an RSD board member?
Yeah, absolutely. So in raising my 3 kids in the Richland School District, they've been in a variety of different elementary, middle schools, and even in 3 different high schools in the district. So I have a lot of experience engaging with the teachers, engaging with counselors, school administrators, to understand how to advocate for my kids and understand the system. I've volunteered in the classrooms, and I've given talks in the classrooms about my professional area that I work in to expand some of the students in the high school environments to some other bigger topics. And I've also volunteered for 10 years with both scouting and sports programs, and so that's taught me a lot about kind of the distribution of kids' personalities and their growth over time, and it's just so wonderful to see them grow from elementary to middle school and high school and how they change and become little people. So I think, you know, my experiences that have really benefited me there is and my professional environment is really trying to understand diverse perspectives, having conversations with people to reach common ground and collaborate on things, because I do believe that in a mutual respect environment we can find a common ground on most issues.
All right, thank you very much. It's kind of a resume question, isn't it, Ms. Williams? What are the extracurriculars you've taken a part of in terms of the school district?
Absolutely. So, you know, one thing that I mentioned during my opening is that I've been volunteering in this district for years, even prior to serving on the board for the last 3.5 years. And really, I'll just touch on a few of the things that I'm most excited about in my work as a school board member. And really, my number one priority is student academic success, and specifically getting every child to read on grade level. You know, right now we have just slightly over 50% of our kids who are reading on grade level, which means we're leaving behind 48% of our students are not reading on grade level, which is a travesty. And I think that if there's one thing that we can give to our kids is the gift of reading, because then they can become critical thinkers and become amazing members of our society. If you can't read, the problems there are just countless. And so I have worked with a small grassroots group of teachers, starting really during COVID, we started working on this to completely overhaul the entire instructional methodology of how we teach reading in our schools. And it's slowly starting to gain support across all teachers, and it's becoming a remarkable work that I'm super excited about. There's other things as well, but I have run out of time, so
Nature of the beast there, that's right. All right, Mr. Riggs, same question to you about anything that you've done with the school outside of the school board.
Volunteering for field trips, in-class instructions with science projects, helping coach middle school baseball, and just being involved with any activities where they ask for parent support. And it, like Katrina was saying, it's just fun to watch the diverse mindsets of the children and just what aspects of which field trips or which science projects that individual kids find fascinating, and watch them just dive in and just be a sponge and soak up the information being taught, and formulating those relationships with student athletes, and using the sports analogies and just the life lessons that can be taught through sports has been fascinating. And watching, like Katrina said, watching the children grow through, third grade all the way up to high school, and it's been very rewarding.
All right, Mr. Riggs, thank you very much. Now, our third question, this is before closing statements, begins with the incumbent, Ms. Williams, and we'd be remiss not to talk about the recall election a little bit of 3 board members, including you, on this ballot. So petitioners got enough signatures to put it there, a little bit of context. Where do you stand on the recall issue, the accusations of the violation of the Open Meetings Act, and what's your statement on that?
So my statement on that is vote no on the recall. I just think that we need to be putting our students first and foremost, and that's what I've strived to do this last 3.5 years. COVID was a rough time, and I felt like during that time the government often thought that they knew what was best for kids over their parents. And I strongly believe in parents and their rights to know what is best for their children. And as board members, it's our obligation to make sure that these kids are getting the best education that they possibly can, and in a safe environment where they feel loved and where they can grow, as we've talked about numerous times. And so, yes, absolutely, we need to continue the course. We've been doing great work on this board, and I'm eager to continue that work and vote no on the recall. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Williams, thank you very much. Mr. Riggs, same question to you, just about this recall election. What are your thoughts?
Vote no. It's, what's being done is categorically wrong. The people behind it are trying to undo the election from when we put the board together at the last election. They're using this as an opportunity to go against the will of the voters and the will of the people. So we need to stand up against that, vote no. But I'd also say the underlining issues that the board was trying to resolve are still there. They're not holding the administration accountable for some of the things that led up to the recall, and that is why I want to bring my leadership to the board so that we can hold the administration accountable and really push the will of the people and get the change that we want to see in our school district.
All right, Mr. Riggs, thank you very much. Ms. Waters, that same question to you. Where do you stand on the recall issue and the accusations in it?
Yeah, so as a scientist, I know that there were data that supported and refuted the value of masks and that mandate as it was implemented in schools. And I think a lot of well-intentioned people made the best decisions they could at the time with the information that they had. And so I think my personal opinions on the recall really don't matter. I think the voters will decide in terms of which direction they choose to go. And I myself personally am eager to run for the election in November so that I can bring a perspective to the board to really focus on the future, focus on the lessons learned during the past few years, and to really be better prepared and focused on finding community, collaboration, and recovery from this, and really focused on the job to be done going forward.
Ms. Waters, thank you very much. And I want to remind voters out there, your voter information and ballot will have more about the accusations and the recall. Also has responses from each of the candidates as well, so we encourage everybody to get as much information as possible on the issue, and of course all issues. And finally, some time for some closing statements. We've set that at 1 minute apiece as well. Mr. Riggs, we're back to you to begin.
Again, my name is Aaron Riggs, father of 4, concerned about the direction that our school district is headed. Want to hold the administration accountable. Need your vote to do it. And just super excited to get started.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Waters, your closing statement.
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate it, like Harry said, everybody participating and watching today on the video. You know, my goal is really to come in and provide service to the community. My kids have graduated from high school, but I've continued my service in the community through scouting programs, and I'm busy at least a couple nights a week volunteering in that capacity. I look forward to the opportunity to volunteer in this capacity as well. I think I have a unique perspective to bring from my professional experience managing both small and large organizations, being a part of government subcontractor work where I understand unfunded mandates, priorities, and mission creep. I very strongly value transparency and accountability in decision making, and I do think that that's something that we can really improve on in the district. And I really hope to bring my skills in collaboration, working as a team, appreciating different viewpoints and perspectives so that we can really find common ground and, you know, make progress going forward for the best of our students and our community.
Ms. Waters, thank you very much. Ms. Williams, your closing statement.
Absolutely. Thank you again for tuning in and sticking with us. I know you have one more race, and I am eager and excited to continue the great work that I've already been working on. As I've said before, getting every student to read on grade level should be our #1 top priority, and this is something that I will continue to just keep pressing forward and getting the district to make sure that student education and academic outcomes are our #1 priority. And knowing the world of education is important, and we need board members who can hit the ground running and keep the work going. And so please vote for Carrie Williams, re-elect me, keep that progress towards student academic success moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Riggs, Katrina Waters, Carrie Williams, we really appreciate your time today. Thanks for giving our voters a little more insight into your candidacy for the Richland School Board. And that brings us to our final race for the Richland School Board here. 3 candidates on the ballot for position 5. Those 3, incumbent Jill Olson, challenger Jean Nemeth, and challenger Matthew Bishop. Now, Mr. Bishop did not respond to the league's efforts to get him to be a part of this program. So in studio with me now are Ms. Olson, Mr. Nemeth. Thank you so much for being here. We'll actually have time for a few more questions as a result of it just being the 3 of us in the room today, and we appreciate your time. So let's get to opening statements in these races, beginning with Mr. Nemeth, set at 1 minute.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the League of Women Voters having me on board here for this nonpartisan position. I'm Jean Nemeth, a 26-year Navy veteran, 7 years out at the Hanford site leading nuclear operations. I've got a ton of experience developing, building, and leading high-performing teams, large organizations. I'm also a parent of 3 Richland School graduates, 2 that just graduated a couple of weeks ago, all with special needs. So I've been actively involved with the Special Education Task Force, Special Education PTA. I volunteer throughout the community. The reason I am running is because for the past 7 years, since I've observed is the community or the district has been we've not been focused on student outcomes. And the #1 priority of every school board or a highly effective school board are student outcomes. And there's a lot of things that hopefully I'll get to discuss about what my plan is to transform Richland into an academic center of excellence. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Nemeth, thank you. Congratulations to your kids for their graduations as well. Ms. Olson, your opening statement.
Hi, again, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for presenting this. This will be the 3rd time that I have participated in this really great event. I think it's important for the community to be able to see and sort of understand and meet us as the people who we are. So a little bit of background, I've been in the community for 25 years. I have 2 students who are both graduates of the Richland School District. I have basically been part of the Richland School District since, 20 years. I was really fortunate that I didn't have to work after I had our first child, so most of my time and energy was put into public education and volunteering in the classroom and really understanding those dynamics. So I've got a nurse. My daughter graduated 3 years ago. She's now a pediatric nurse in Spokane. Thankful for the Richland School District and that. And I've got a son who's going to ASU studying business and finance. I think the most important thing that we need to realize is that the United States is one of the biggest providers of public education and the importance of that. Lots of countries don't always accommodate every student and every kid in those regions or in the areas they are working with. So I am a staunch advocate of public education and what we can provide to our students. They're more than tests, they're individuals that are going to contribute to our society.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Olson. Mr. Nemeth, thank you very much. Nice to meet you, too. We'll get to the line of questions here. And the first question comes from the League of Women Voters of Benton and Franklin County. Fair to say the school board's been in the news a little bit. And according to some reports, there appears to be some division on the board. So I would ask, and I'll start with Mr. Nemeth, do you agree with this assessment? And if so, what part would you play in a situation or a possible solution if elected?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, as a community member and an active, I'd say, participant at school board meetings, I do recognize that it does appear that there is divisiveness among the school board. There's divisiveness in the community. And, you know, again, as a leader for the last 32 years, I understand that, you know, when you have a proposal or you have something that you think you want to implement and it doesn't necessarily get implemented, but again, it's 5 or 7 people, depending on the number, 5 people here, that, you know, when you make a decision, that's the board's decision. And you have to unite and align with that because it's important for the students, the teachers, and the community. And again, I think as we move past all of the divisive issues and start focusing on student outcomes, you know, where a majority of board meetings, instead of spending 0 to 5 minutes on student outcomes, we spend 50 to 60% of that time. I think the community, the teachers, the parents, and the board will unite behind student outcomes, and we remove the divisiveness.
Thanks, Mr. Nemeth. Ms. Olson, different set of perspectives here from inside the board. Do you see divisiveness, and what role would you play in its solution?
I see divisiveness from a standpoint that I truly believe that each one of the board members did exactly what they thought was in the best interest of the students. I think where the divisiveness primarily occurred is in the relationship that we have as elected officials. We take an oath of office. We are held accountable to that oath of office. So there are steps and procedures that we need to follow in order to institute changes within the organization that result in better student outcome. The other reason I think that there's been some divisiveness on there is I think we've spent more time on talking about things we don't agree on rather than things that we do agree on. I think at the end of the day, regardless of what your ideology is, there's a common thread amongst all of us that we want our kids to have a safe, educational, successful learning environment. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit from the standpoints of things and conversations that cause division. You know, COVID was a reality. It's not an excuse. I think that problems shine bright lights on things of inadequacies, and that brought it together. The problem is the divisiveness across the community began getting exacerbated in that whole process. So I think we need to focus on things we can agree on.
All right, and as we go just a little over time, not coming at you for that, but we will address a number of these topics as well during the forum, so we'll get to a lot more here. And question number 2, the league offers a hypothetical here. As an elected school board member, a vocal group of parents contacts you. They request you investigate an issue. How do you handle a situation like that, Ms. Olson?
That's interesting because this has happened on numerous occasions. I think the most important thing that any individual can, regardless of the position they're in, is make sure that you evaluate and look at both sides of a story. There's always 2 sides of every story. I think that you also need to get the individuals in a room together to have conversation rather than the he said, she said, they said conversation. I think one of the things that we have lacked across the board is the ability to have direct conversation with individuals to actually come to the root of the problem. I think a lot of times it's more of a miscommunication in regards to situations that have happened than an actual violation of policy or procedure that needed to be investigated.
All right, Mr. Nemeth, I'll turn that question to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the first step in any situation where you have someone who is lobbying a complaint or an issue is active listening. So you want to make sure that the group or the person is being heard, and then reiterating, you know, their concern back to them so that you understand what they think is the full scope of the problem. And then, you know, actively pursuing resolution, which is either, you know, do you need mediation? Do you need to have parties come to the table? Or do you need to bring in an independent investigator? But I think, you know, at the end of the day, once you understand what the scope of the problem is, and whether it's investigation, mediation, once there's an agreement or a path forward that's been established, it's absolutely critical as a board member that you follow up, right? It's the 360-degree view, because it's great if you listen and go out and you do something, but if you don't actually follow up at the end of the day, then regardless of what happened in the interim, it may be meaningless to the group or the party that lodged or levied that complaint, and then you'll end up actually making it even more divisive at the end of the day. But that 360-degree, follow-up generally will quench the issue.
All right, Mr. Nemes, thank you very much. And question 3, maybe it allows us to expand on this idea a little bit more. In fact, Ms. Olson, you had sort of mentioned a bit ago just about everybody acting in the way they thought was best for the board, and that may be where divisiveness comes from. Well, this question sort of follows along that line from Richland High School, concerned maybe about political influence or at least personal political beliefs affecting decision-making on the board. So this is the question from RHS. The school board positions are nonpartisan, so how do you demonstrate nonpartisanship, free from political influence in your candidacy and work as a school board director? Mr. Nemeth, your first year.
It's a great question, and I think that's one that's very hard to implement all of the time because a lot of times you have your own personal beliefs and your own experiences, and a lot of times when you're making decisions, that's the initial filter, which is why it's so important that you follow the procedures and policies and the laws that are out there, and you're making sure that you're effectively implementing them in the course of your procedures and policies. Again, there's always going to be perceptions that you're leaning one way or the other. It's extremely hard to always, I would say, ride that neutral line. But as a school board director, you have to, I think, take an extra measure and work with your cohorts on the board to ensure that the decisions we're making as a team are in fact nonpartisan and are in the best interest of your students to improve student outcomes or be in the best interest of the taxpayer.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nemeth. Ms. Olson, same question, but political influence or political beliefs infiltrating the board?
I do believe over the last couple of years there has been a substantial infiltration of political beliefs. I think that this is not just common to our particular community. I think it's common across the United States. There's been somewhat of a push from a political standpoint to, in my opinion, disassemble public education as it stands. And I think it's critically important that we realize public education is just that, public education, and we provide education in a safe environment for every kid, regardless of where they come from, what their ideology is, what their family's political beliefs are. That is one of the issues that got us in trouble because there was a big division of political lines. I personally really try to stay very neutral on those lines and really look at how it impacts each and every one of our students.
Thank you very much, Ms. Olson. All right, in this program, moving on to question 4, we've also talked about the recall election of a few board members that's on the ballot, an issue involving an early end to the state's mask mandate and accusations of a violation of the Open Meetings Act. And this is an issue of particular concern to students in Columbia Basin College's political science program. And this question comes from them. Was there a violation of board member contracts or perhaps a failure to uphold the law when the board members voted to abandon the mask mandate before it was ended statewide? Ms. Olson, you're on the board. My question's to you.
Number one question is yes. We take an oath of office which requires us to uphold the laws of the state of Washington. And there has been argument whether or not that the mask mandate was a law or not a law. In a state of emergency, the legislative body has given the power to the governor to execute mandates as a law as long as that emergency mandate is in place. So there were avenues in which we should have taken or could have taken in order to do that, but at the bottom line is we cannot have conversations with each other outside of a meeting, and we cannot do things that blatantly have a disregard for the law. I think it sets a bad example for our students. I do believe that they were acting in what they thought was best for our students. However, that is outside the scope of our authority. And the only way to hold publicly elected officials accountable is through a recall, and that's where the voters get to have that choice.
All right, Ms. Olson, thank you. Mr. Nemeth, same question to you.
I just want to hear the question one more
time,
please.
Was there a violation of board member contracts or perhaps a failure to uphold the law when board members voted to abandon that mask mandate?
That's a very hot button topic. It's very emotionally driven. And again, it's the discussion between the law and the mandate. And I think at the time of the decision, the community was becoming very divisive. I think there was a lot of political influence. And I think that, suicides were going up, mental health was a problem. And again, I will say that I agree that the board members were, I think, acting in what they thought was the best interest of the students. So, you know, this mandate has, what I would say, or this recall effort has actually detracted and distracted our community to the point where we've lost focus on our outcomes. So, yeah, if you look at it from a technical perspective, yes, there was most likely some, because the mandate and emergency powers, if you were to look at it from a black and white perspective, it was most likely a violation. But the whole other 8 or 9 counts, you know, those are up for debate. The recall will determine. But again, we've got to get back past. We keep talking about the recall. We should be talking about improving student outcomes.
All right. Thank you very much. And question 5, just curious, and we'll start here back at the top of Mr. Nemeth, if you're aware of the process for RSD parents to opt out of sex education for their children if they choose. If you know about that process, could you please describe it? And do you support that process or not as it stands?
Yeah, I do know, because I've done it for my children on a couple of occasions. So the opt-out program is, for one, is you have, again, this was an issue I've had, is you actually have to be very plugged in to know when these things are happening, and sometimes ask for the waiver forms. You know, my personal stance is these topics that I think can touch many people in different ways based on your beliefs should actually be reversed. And I believe that you should have opt-in instead of opt-out, because I believe that then that invites the parents into the conversation, and it's not something that could be a administrative error. And I know that there are administrative errors, and sometimes these things happen. There's been surveys, there's been teachings, there's been things that have gone by where the parents didn't have the chance to opt out, and that material kind of presented itself. And I don't necessarily think that that's okay. I think as a community, to bring parents into it, we've got to get them to be opting into certain, not everything obviously, but certain categories or teachings.
All right, Mr. Nemeth, thank you. Ms. Olson, same question.
Richland School District has always had the opportunity to opt out of any curriculum or any topic that a parent does not want or feel that is appropriate for their family environment. I disagree with Mr. Nemeth in the fact that it should be opposite, where you have to opt in as opposed to opt out. And the reason I say that is because not every child has the opportunity to have a highly engaged parent. And I think as a public education system, and with the regulations that are set up by the state, there are certain guidelines and criteria that we have to do in regards to educating. I believe it should be factually accurate. I believe it should be developmentally appropriate. And I also believe that it should be vetted by the community. Local control gives us the opportunity to, as long as we're staying within the guidelines of the curriculum, to change things and tweak it a little bit to where it is conducive for the majority of the environment. I've always said, one really quick thing, we need to always have the ability to opt in or to opt out. We have control over where our children want. We don't have control over what everybody else's child wants.
All right. Thank you very much. And moving on to our 6th and final question before we have some closing statements. Have there been any decisions made by the current or past school boards that maybe you disagree with and would work to change if elected? Ms. Olson.
I believe that every school board member, when they take the time and commit the effort and time to be a school board member, that they are doing what's in their best interest. I do feel that there are times when school board individuals run because they have an agenda, and there's a certain thing that they want to fix, or there's a certain problem that they see that they can assimilate and bring back into scope. I've found with those types of situations that those school board members don't last as long. They usually come in and get frustrated. Education is incredibly slow. It's slow moving. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of unintended consequences. I think that as a school board, you have to have the ability to work as a team and look at the overall student outcome. That's not just academically, that's socially, that's community-wise, to really come together to give the best environment for the students, teachers, and community members.
All right, thanks, Ms. Olson. Mr. Nemeth, same question to you.
Great, thank you. So actually I do. I think that our school board has not been effective in making decisions that are always in the best interest of students. Meaning, you know, when you have independent auditors come in and find pretty significant findings in special education or curriculum-based that detract from student outcomes, and then the board doesn't take it up to hold the superintendent and the system accountable to say, how are you going to fix these, because they directly impact our special education population and our students. You know, I think not making those the #1 priority at the school board meetings is a poor decision. And that's one of the things, again, that I would change. Is I would challenge anybody to go back and look at the last 4 years and say, if you were to tally up the number of minutes that the board has spent talking about and discussing other topics not related to student outcomes, it would be a pretty substantial variance. And you would end up in somewhere around maybe 5% of board meetings are related directly to student outcomes, and that needs to change.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nemeth. And finally tonight, we're going to hear some closing statements. I say again, there's so many topics we just do not have the time to address. And you're not going to like this, but I'm going to shorten the time a little bit for us as well. Let's set the clock at 30 seconds for closing statements. 30 seconds. Last word. We'll start with you, Mr. Nemeth.
All right, so really quick to the point. My goal is to really transform Richland into a center of excellence. And what I mean by that is that we are setting high expectations, student achievement. You know, we have not properly implemented MTSS. We have not properly utilized, and we are not being data-driven. And the board needs to return the focus back to the student. I get it, there's a whole bunch of issues that are out there, but my #1 focus is to stay on student outcomes and to get with teachers, find out what's wrong, get with parents, work together collaboratively to get our students to where they need to be.
Mr. Nemeth, thank you very much. Ms. Olson, your closing statement.
My closing statement is I am going to agree with Jean in the fact that we have not spent the amount of time that we should on student outcome, because there's been a lot of noise, for lack of a better lack of a better term, because of the division and different things that happened. We do need to focus on student outcome and student success, but what does that look like? I don't believe that looks like a single test score. I don't believe that looks like a single criteria in what OSPI says. It looks at the entire student as a whole and where we come and where we go, and making sure those kids can succeed in an outside environment.
Thank you very much. Jean Nemeth, Jill Oldson, candidates for the board position 5 on the Richland School District. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm really glad you ran.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had this opportunity to talk.
We appreciate a ton of insights there. We want to give one more reminder. Mr. Nemeth and Mr. Oldson are on the ballot facing another challenger in this race. Mr. Matthew Bishop was not here, did not respond to an invitation by the League of Women Voters to be here, but we're glad we were able to talk to you about the race and the issues facing the school board in a lot more detail. Now, before we go, we want to send one more reminder and one more thank you to all of our candidates. We believe very strongly in creating and encouraging more informed voters here. It's why we do this. Before we sign off, I want to remind voters out there, a primary election coming up on August 1st. Also, the deadline to register in person and to drop your mailed ballots into a box. If you do want to register online, that deadline coming up on July 24th. Ballots were scheduled to be sent out to the public on July 12th, so keep an eye on your mailbox. And finally, before we go, I want to say we wrap up our short primary series here from NWPB Vote 2023. If you missed anything from this forum or you'd like to share it, you can find it on the Northwest Public Broadcasting YouTube channel. We've done the same for our other program. We featured Richland City Council as well as the 3-person primary for the Port of Benton Commission. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters and all of our crew here at WSU Tri-Cities, thank you for watching.